What do you think of when I say bubonic plague?
When I think of the bubonic plague, I think of death, I think of destruction, and I think of despair.
Bad shit.
Oh, I think it's gross. Ew.
Like
Death.
I think of a large population drop. I think of death and disease.
I think of lots of deaths.
Death and dead bodies everywhere.
Dead bodies.
Death and destruction. Death, fear, destruction, just real bad stuff.
A lot of dead people.
I think of pestilence coming from the northeast at 45 miles per hour, and King Arthur.
I think of rats and nursery rhymes.
Think of bodily fluids.
I think of the bubonic plague.
Rats and fleas and death.
Pus-filled death.
Yeah, no.
Dead people.
Grotesque murder.
Rats, sewage, possible germ warfare.
Thing that happened back in, I think, the middle of the Dark Ages when there were no vaccines.
Think of a lot of death and like blood in the streets.
Rats. It was a tragedy.
All death.
Sad, scary, bad things.
Throwing vomit out of windows in the Dark Ages.
Plague.
Sickness.
Death?
Plague.
Dead white people.
Plague.
I don't know, some old shit that happened a while ago. I don't really care.
I think about people with disgusting black nodules all over them and crappy History Channel documentaries.
Oh, God, that scene from the movie Joan of Arc, where she goes into the village of dying people, but she goes in there anyways because God has prompted her to, and there's fire all around where they're burning the bodies. That's what I think of.
The medieval ages.
I think of the song, Ring Around the Posy, and Dirty Rats.
Most students questioned about the bubonic plague thought about death. The bubonic plague killed about 1.5 million out of 4 million people in 2 years in medieval England. Yes, the plague, also known as the Black Death, killed about 1/4 of England's population. But what was the
cause?
Effects. Significant.
Most people questioned about the plague believed that fleas on rats were the cause of the disease. This is true, but recent evidence from human remains suggests that fleas could not have been responsible for the infection spreading so fast. The Black Death is now believed to be airborne. Once the plague reached the lungs of the infected, it was spread through coughs and sneezes.
What was the significance?
Well, this disease killed 6 out of every 10 Londoners in spring of 1348. A man called Boccaccio, who lived in Italy, described the symptoms of this disease in 1348.
The first signs of the plague were lumps in the groin or armpits. After this, livid black spots appeared on the arms and thighs and other parts of the body. Few recovered. Almost all died within 3 days, usually without any fever.
Because so many people were infected with this disease, no one was around to tend to the animals and crops, so the villages were faced with starvation. Because of the food shortage, the price of food went up. In some places, it raised by 4 times. This angered many peasants, leading them to move in order to find better living situations. In order to escape the bubonic plague, people called flagellants whipped themselves to show their love for God in hopes that He would forgive them.
That's awful. But what were the effects of this awful event?
The effects of the Black Death include town populations falling, trade declining, prices rising, serfs left the manor in search of better wages. Nobles fiercely resisted peasant demands for higher wages, causing peasant revolts in England, France, Italy, and Belgium. Jews were blamed for bringing on the plague. All over Europe, Jews were driven from their homes or massacred. The church suffered a loss of prestige when its prayers failed to stop the onslaught of the bubonic plague, and priests abandoned their duties.